Happy New Year, guys.
Happy 2018.
All right, you guys, we're going to begin with our first podcast of the new year from Chapter 9, Lesson 1. It's called The Development of Feudalism. Okay, and in this lesson, you guys, we're going to learn how Christianity spread and something called feudalism developed in Europe. Okay, as always, we've got vocabulary terms that you're going to be wanting to make sure you're familiar with. There are a lot of them in this particular lesson, so you're going to really want to make sure you concentrate and focus on knowing what those terms are. The words this time around are called, it's the Middle Ages, Charlemagne, monastery, feudalism, lord, and serf. And it's serf, S-E-R-F, not surf like you're going to go take your board and go out to Pismo Beach and try to catch some waves, but serf, S-E-R-F. There will be a podcast vocabulary quiz coming up pretty soon, and so you want to make sure that you're really familiar with these terms. In addition, when you hear this sound, you know that you've heard a vocabulary term.
We have a new unit, and with the new unit, we have a new big idea. Our big idea is conflict brings about change. And the first essential question, what impact did feudalism have on medieval Europe?
Okay, next essential question, how important is keeping order?
Next one, how do civilizations change and adapt after conflict?
Okay, next one is, how does religion play an important role in shaping civilizations?
All right, our first section is setting of medieval Europe. We found on pages 291 to 293. The question you guys should be thinking about, what changes occurred in Europe? The Western Roman Empire fell in the late 5th century. This led to a period in Europe known as the Middle Ages, 500 to 1450. This time is known as the medieval period. During the Middle Ages, Europe became home to many small kingdoms.
Europe has a number of distinct geographic features. The European continent occupies the western part of the Eurasian landmass. This is the continuous stretch of land that includes Europe and Asia.
Europe borders the Atlantic Ocean on the west, the Arctic Ocean to the north, and the Mediterranean Sea on the south. In the east, the Ural Mountains separate Europe from Asia. Plains and farmland cover much of northern and western Europe. Europe has many rivers and lakes. Mild weather and steady rainfall encouraged farming throughout Europe.
Europe's geography played a key role in shaping the pattern of life during the Middle Ages. The favorable climate and many acres of good farmland enabled Europe's small kingdoms and estates to thrive.
Remember, guys, that's very different than how Japan's geography impacted their life.
Absolutely.
The political and social landscape of Europe changed greatly after the fall of Rome. Numerous Germanic groups controlled Europe. Unlike the Romans, Germanic people lived in small communities. They kept order through unwritten rules. They did not develop organized governments or trade systems.
Most schools disappeared during the Middle Ages. Eventually, few people could read or write Latin. Trade throughout Europe also declined. With less trade and commercial activity, most cities disappeared. Many people moved to the country. There, they made their living by farming. All right, by now you should be able to answer this question. Why did many cities disappear after the fall of Rome?
All right, our next section is Christianity Grows and Spreads. You can find this on pages 293 to 295. How did Christianity grow? One institution that survived the fall of Rome was the Christian Church. Many German rulers and their subjects converted to Christianity.
A powerful Germanic group called the Franks played a key role in strengthening Christianity in Europe. In the late 400s, a Frankish leader named Clovis defeated the last great Roman army in Gaul. By 507, his kingdom covered much of modern France. Around this time, Clovis converted to Christianity, and in time, most of his subjects became Christians.
More than 2 centuries later, another powerful ruler led the Franks. His name was Charlemagne. He conquered new lands to the north and south. By 800, the Franks ruled much of Western Europe. Charlemagne created a highly organized and well-run empire. He spread Christianity to the lands he conquered.
While strong rulers spread Christianity, so too did the work done in monasteries. Monasteries were places where religious followers practiced a life of prayer and worship. During the Middle Ages, monasteries arose across Europe. The religious followers who lived and worked in monasteries were known as monks. These people studied Christian works and wrote copies of the Bible. By doing so, they preserved and promoted Christian ideas and beliefs. It's also important for you guys to realize that also living in the monasteries were nuns who were like the female version of monks as well. Okay. Question you should be able to answer at this point is, which European leaders helped to spread Christianity?
All right, our final section is titled Feudalism, a New Social Order, pages 295 to 297. What is feudalism? Charlemagne died in 814. By the mid-800s, the Frankish kingdom became divided into three parts. This split caused the kingdom to grow weak. The decline of Frankish rule led to disorder across Europe.
Scandinavian pirates called Vikings and Muslims attacked coastal regions. A group known as the Magyars attacked towns throughout Central Europe. Beginning in the mid-800s, Europe became a place of constant conflict and warfare. That's gotta not be good.
No, not at all. With so much instability and violence, kings and nobles looked for a way to hold on to their power. To accomplish this, they developed a system known as feudalism. Feudalism was a political system based on an agreement between two groups of nobles, lords and vassals. A lord was a powerful noble who owned land. Lords gave pieces of their land to weaker nobles known as vassals. In return for the land, the vassal promised to protect the lord and his land. Many vassals were warriors known as knights.
Sounds really familiar. Like we just learned about this same kind of a system when we were studying Japan.
Yeah.
All right, feudalism created a well-defined social structure throughout Europe. At the top of the feudal society ruled the king. Next came wealthy landowners and high-ranking church members. Serving below them were knights. At the bottom of society were peasants. Most peasants were serfs. Serfs lived and worked on land that belonged to a lord or a vassal. In return, the nobles granted them shelter and protection. All right, last question for you to be able to think about right now, you guys, is what agreement served as the basis of feudalism?
Just a reminder, you guys will have a podcast quiz coming up shortly. Just a review of the terms and names: Middle Ages, Charlemagne, monastery, feudalism, lord, and serf.
Boom, we're done.
Cannot unsee.